Bueno, muy buenos días para todos. Mi nombre es Silvia Keymetlian, trabajo en el equipo de soporte de GeneXus.
In GeneXus support team. So we are introducing the new functionalities of GeneXus 15, and along the same line I'm going to tell you what the modules are, what they are for, and what benefits you can get when you use them with GeneXus 15. The title of the talk is the one you see here, but it could be also called Módulos Go. And don't worry, we're not going to go hunting Pokemons. But why did I think of this image? When we started with the whole furor of the Pokemon Go, my children at home started exploring. And in order to be more familiar with the game, I went into the web page of the game, started investigating, and I found this phrase that came to my mind when I started thinking of this presentation. What the game proposed was get up, get out, and explore. And precisely this is what I would like to talk about today. Let us explore together the functionalities of the GeneXus 15, and then you can explore them by yourselves in your minds. So that is why I thought of this phrase for this presentation. So let's explore together the new functionalities. The first thing I would like to say is that the modules help us to better understand the KB and have the objects in order, and this is going to bring benefits for our developments. When we start developing an application, we've all been there. We group the functionalities of our application in different modules. For example, in one application for online shop, we probably have these modules you see on the screen: customers, catalog, products, purchase. And when we create the KB with GeneXus, we set up folders in our KB, and this is what we had so far in order to group objects. The object group by functionality, and each one will start ordering the objects in this manner. This is the GeneXus KB that has defined the folders I showed you a moment ago. And this is the online shop. This is what we have published as a sample. You can download it and use it. And in this KB, I have already defined the modules I showed you before. So here you can see the customers, the product, security, etc. So, how was it that on the basis of the sample KB, I started defining the modules in the KB? This is done when you position yourself in the module that comes with GeneXus. You open a new module with a right click, and thus you start defining the modules. From this module that you see on the screen, or any one that is defined in the KB, or else we can have a KB already structured with folders, and this will put us one step ahead because the folder can be converted in a module. So you will wonder why not continue using the folders so as to continue structuring and having the KB structured like that. But the folders were not created with a spirit. We can continue using them in order to organize the objects inside a module, but the modules will give us more functionalities and much more benefits, as you will see. So one step you can take is think of the folders you have already defined and how to convert them into modules and start taking advantage of these new possibilities. Once the modules have been defined in the KB, what we have to define is how these modules communicate among them. I showed you the online shop KB in a module, but then I have to define the interface for that module. For example, the invoicing module, how is it going to communicate with the customers module or the products with invoicing? And this is something we do naturally, of course, in our development team. One developer works in a certain way, defines the communication interface with the other modules, or we'll see also that the interfaces don't necessarily have to be in the same KB, they can be in different KBs. So, as I said, the next step is to define the interfaces for the communication between the modules, where is a link where one module ends and the other one starts. And this in GeneXus, we can do it with this object visibility property, which has two values, public and private. And this indicates that public objects are visible in all the modules of the KB on which we're working. The object can be accessed from any module. We can access it with a call and the name of the object as we do today. But private objects actually are only seen from the module in which I have defined this object. We cannot have access to them from another module. So what do I do if I really need to expose the functionality of that object in another module? I have to look for services then. For example, one procedure that internally calls that object and that has this property, object visibility, but I will not be able to access the object directly to make a call, for example. The specifier will tell me that that's an error because the object is defined as private. So here I am defining in the transaction of the product the properties, and I'm going to configure it as private, and this will give me the possibility that if I don't want a developer to have access to the object, I don't expose it in the module's interface. Once I have defined the objects and their property, public or private, I will be able to see the interface of my module, as I said. And this can be seen graphically, and I can see it directly with a right click on the module, open part, and the interface of the module. This will show me a diagram in which you will see what I show in the middle. These are all the objects that are defined with the property object visibility as public. All these objects can be accessed by any module in my system, but you will see, for example, that the transaction product is not defined here. It's not inside the interface of the object, precisely because it has been defined as private. So in this manner, we start structuring the KB and indicating which are the objects that are internal to the module and those that are published that can be accessed by any module. What are the benefits then of this module interface and these properties? Better understanding in the KB, better understanding in the team about the objects that can be accessed or not, especially if these are large KBs. We have discussed with several clients the problem of managing the KB, and having the KB structured like this is a significant benefit. Even when there is someone new in the development team, sometimes they have to explore the whole KB and understand which objects have to be referenced and how to do it. But if there's a good interface for these objects, this new person will understand the entry point of the modules easily, and it will be better for him to understand how the interaction is carried out. Another aspect I'd like to highlight is how modules can help us to achieve efficiency in the development of our applications. So once again, when we started developing the application, we usually saw a series of procedures that are common to all applications. The tools or the utilitarian objects. We usually have all objects and then we start developing the KB. We import these procedures and start using them. Some of these procedures are the ones you see on the screen. For example, one that assigns a value and returns a text associated to that value, or a procedure that validates a name or not, or a procedure that allows us to know the language of the browser in which the application is being executed. As I said, these procedures are usually in an XPZ and we can import them. They may be modified. It is necessary to modify the code of these objects. And then when we integrate the KB in what we call the integrated KB, that we are going to try to generate to take to production, maybe we will see differences between the objects. Very often, the person who integrates the KBs is not the same one that developed the module or developed the object. So understanding why the changes were made sometimes may take very long and may take a lot of energy also to understand why the objects were modified, or there may be some objects that are still pending. It takes a lot of time to analyze all these aspects. So in GeneXus 15, we already have the possibility of generating from a module what we call a package, where all these procedures fit very well. We package them and we import this package in the KB of the developers that need to use these functionalities. But when they use them, they're not going to use the object itself. They are going to use it from an API which is exposed from the package that was created. We will see this in an example, but the advantage is that when they use an API, they don't see the object in itself and the code, therefore they cannot modify the object, and the person who created the package is the one that defines this. This is the KB Stone framework. KB was created by Daniel Monza, a member of the community who kindly shared this KB. And it has several of these procedures I told you about. Procedures that we normally use in our applications. This KB is also in a module. And in this case, these objects and procedures all have the property object visibility public. So I can have access to them so as to use these objects when I create the package, because remember that I defined the modules, I defined the interface, and the next step would be to create a package with this module in order to have an API with all these objects. Which objects will be exposed? Those that are public, according to my definition. Those that are private cannot be accessed directly. So in this case, we have the KB Stone framework, and here the modules are already defined. The main module Stone framework includes all the objects I told you about, and I'm going to show you how to create the package I told you about. Right-click on package, and on the module we see this dialog, and we can specify the version of the package, who is the author, so for which environment the package will be created, and when we have to confirm, GeneXus carries out two actions. Firstly, to generate all the objects of these modules in the environments that we have indicated, and the second action is to package these objects and create the package that will be used in another KB afterwards. The package that is created is basically a file of OPC extension, which is actually a zip that have the binaries of the objects that we have generated. In this case, I tested it with generator.net. So If I right-click in Properties and Details, I will see the information that I included when I generated the package, the version which was created, etc. So in this package, we have the different characteristics according to whether it's Java, etc., and all the objects that are characteristics of the package configuration. So we can create the packages of the modules that we defined in our KBs, but in GeneXus 15 we are using this also with the objects that we distribute with GeneXus, the SDTs, the domains, etc. When you start using GeneXus 15, you will see that all these objects will appear under references, and you will see all the APIs that GeneXus allows you to use in its KBs. As the objects and the packages that we created, these objects from GeneXus cannot be modified either. These are APIs that we can use as we did it in the past, but we cannot modify them. The advantage is that we always make sure that you will be working with the right version of these APIs. When you create the KBs, you import the APIs, you can start using them, and if you change the update, there will be consultations to see whether you have the right version, and if not, there's going to be an update. And based on this version, the domains are also included in the module. So this gives us the advantage that you can have domains with the same name in different modules. Until now, this wasn't possible, but as from GeneXus 15, it's possible. So if we had to update the GeneXus module, for example, because a new version has been released or there have been modifications, we can do it from the GeneXus menu in Manage Module, and there we will see the dialog where we see all the modules that are available for the update. In this case, we have the GeneXus module and the Stone Framework module which we just created and which can be updated here in this KB. Once we have set up the package, what is left is to import it and be able to use it from another KB. So basically, it would be sharing knowledge, the knowledge that we packaged, so as to use it from another KB. And how do we do this? We have different possibilities. One option would be to share this knowledge locally. This means that I will be able to see in the dialog I showed you before. You see here local. I'll be able to see here all of the modules I have locally in my GeneXus installation. This is the option that we have released today with GeneXus 15, and you can try it. So let's see how we would import and use the Stone Framework module we just used with the 1.0 version. Now I'm going back to Online Shop. That's where I'm going to import the Stone Framework module from. We see on the right all the information that we entered when we created the module. Here we are importing the module in my KB, and once it's been imported, what I be able to do is to use the APIs that I exposed in this module's interface. Now the import is done, and then after the under the option references, I can see all of the APIs that are available. If I review the objects that were imported, they will be read-only. I won't see the source of the object, but I will be able to know how I can invoke this object. I will see which are the parameters it needs, of what kind they are, and thus I can use the API based on the importation of this package. That's the next step. How can I use some of the APIs that I have imported in this package? Again, I go to the online shop KB, and in this case, I'm going to use the procedure that given a value returns a text for the value I entered. And here I have a web panel. I put a variable to enter the value, then the box for the language, and an event where I am going to make a call to the API that returns a text. As you see, the way of invoking an API is for any GeneXus object. There's nothing new to learn there. We write the name of the module, where the procedure is, and the parameters we need. It's as if we called any other GeneXus object. Once we have defined the event, we execute it, and at the time of execution, we enter the value 200, for example. We indicate the language of the text, and if I want it in Spanish, for example, I will be getting the text in Spanish for this value. So this is a way of using the package in other KBs once we've created it. As I said, this is the option we have released so far, which is to share knowledge locally. But what we want to do is to have, in the next upgrades, options not only to be able to import the package that we have in our local KBs, but also do it through the network. Sometimes we work in a company where there is a server, and we could have all the modules and packages by the developers that they want to share with the rest of the development team. And why not also have a marketplace where anyone from the community can upload their modules and share them with the rest of the community. Now I'm going to show you a preview of what we are doing. In the next upgrades of GeneXus 15, you'll probably be able to try this, and I'll show you what we are doing with the network option, sharing a package through the net. In this package, I'm going to create Firstly, we want to have what are the options available in the dialog manage module. So I'm going to create a new version of my package, in this case 2.0, and once I've created this version, I will see in the dialog of manage module that it is available. I had 1.0, now I have 2.0, and I'm going to share this version in a server of my net. So here, right-click, upload, and I see all the servers in which I can share it, and in this case, I'm uploading it to the network. So in the network server, I see the package that has just been created. So our idea is to start playing with these options and sharing modules for those who need them, and those who want to upload modules will have in the future the option marketplace, and we'll be able to share these modules with the rest of the community. To sum up what we've just seen, one of the most significant benefits is that the modules are maintained by the provider of the package, whether it is a package that we distribute with GeneXus. Well, we'll make sure that you are always using the latest version of our APIs, and this is extremely important so that you don't have problems with compatibility. Also, they allow to preserve the privacy of the code. Very often we have to distribute certain functionalities, or we want to share certain procedures or functionalities with others, and if we do it in this manner, we make sure that the code is modified only in our KB. In fact, if you are interested in testing the SDK of IBM Watson, this afternoon there will be a presentation about it. Watson what's on SDK is distributed in this manner. We deliver a package, you import it in your KB, and then you can use the APIs that are exposed in this SDK. Another advantage is to avoid occasional errors, for example, modifying objects unduly, and then there are compatibility issues, and you don't know why these modifications were made. And finally, one of the most important features is that the objects that are imported are already compiled, so they won't enter into the process of compilation, etc., of our KB, and this reduces the process that sometimes may be costly and time-consuming. So it's good to be able to reduce the times. Finally, I'll show you a video as follows.
Bueno, jugar está bueno.
Well, it's good. It's good to play, but it's better to explore everything in real life. That is exactly what I would like to leave with you. So with GeneXus 15, you can start exploring these functionalities. You can modularize your KBs, define interfaces, and create packages, and also share them with your own development team or other developers of the community. So this is what I wanted to tell you about. Thank you very much.